Every quarter, Urbanation comes out with their reports, and those are the reports that all the news headlines love jumping on for when it comes to real estate content. Our brokerage does bring in Urbanation on a monthly basis to get the most up-to-date data, and for this video, we're gonna go through a couple different slides from the last data that stood out to me more than any others and does give a really good breakdown of what exactly happened in February of 2025, especially since we are now 3 years from the peak of the Greater Toronto Area market. If you ever want to book in a call to discuss your plans for Toronto real estate in 2025, especially as the weather's starting to get a little bit better, click on that first link down below or scan the QR code here on the screen. Urbanation is one of the most in-depth companies when it comes to what's going on in the construction business for the city of Toronto, especially when it comes to new condo sales, pre-construction sales, and analyzing all the data across the board for resale property. We're lucky enough to get them on a once a month basis where they come and present exactly what's going on in the market. And there are 3 different slides that I'd like to unpack here that were in the latest package so that we can show exactly what's been going on in the market to really give some clarity amongst all the noise out there for Toronto real estate so far this year. We're going to start right here in the trade war and winter storms that have been pushing buyers to the sidelines. And it's no secret with the February numbers and the March numbers that I've been tracking all month, we have seen the very slowest start we have ever seen in Toronto real estate ever recorded on record, and the numbers in March will reflect the same thing as it did in February. Brewing trade war and winter storms push buyers to the sidelines. February usually marks the start of a seasonal uptrend in sales, combination of heightened economic uncertainty emanating from a brewing trade war with the USA and severe winter storms. We did get some more snow all along in February, and even here in March, we're still getting a bit of snow here. Pushed activity down to one of its lowest levels in the past 3 decades. So in the last 30 years, one of the slowest start to the years ever. However, with sellers also backing off last month, prices held fairly steady with only a mild decrease from a year ago. What's interesting is as we've gone on through the month of March, I have seen bidding wars come back for particular properties in particular areas. There's one that really stood out the other day. It had 9 offers in Roncesvalles. It's one of the best locations for people looking to get into the market on a single family property. So if you are looking for a semi in Ronci, they are still selling extremely well. And anything that's turnkey where someone can just move right in is getting multiple offers and a ton of activity. It was no different in the last week. That property sold for multiple hundreds of $1,000s over the asking price. And with good reason. It was a great property in a great area. And definitely that pocket will always perform well in Toronto real estate. So let's talk about the sales in February. And February was, of course, an extremely slow month. And if we look at the 10-year average, usually we see around 6,700 sales for the month of February. In February 2025, we saw 4,037. In fact, it's the lowest we've seen since 2023 and 2019. Now, what's interesting is in 2020, there weren't any lockdowns until basically March and April. So February was still a pretty hot month when real estate was still trucking along. The notable thing was after that year of lockdown, we saw the hottest February of all time at almost 11,000 sales, which is well above the average of about 6,700. And here's something that's actually notable for February is new listings, and new listings were right around the 10-year average, about 12,000. Now, everyone's always talking about inventory. And yes, active listings is almost double the 10-year average. We're almost at 20,000 active listings. So if you're seeing any of those articles that say however many thousand listings did not sell in the month of February, well, of course not, because if we only had 4,000 sales and there's 19,000 active listings, it's a pretty good amount of listings not selling. Now, the condo market is taking up a big portion of those listings. In fact, if you're looking at the city of Toronto, there are a lot of condos that are on the market right now and contributing to that active listing inventory. This will be the final chart that I show, and this is a ton of data if you are looking on a TV. I'm sure you could see how this looks, and if you wanted more in-depth resources here, definitely send me a message. We can discuss this more in detail. But overall, if we're looking at the city of Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area, they're 2 totally different things. The city of Toronto is Toronto West, Toronto Central, Toronto East. If you're looking at the GTA, you're also factoring in Halton, Peel, York, and Durham. It's pretty wide spectrum. And in fact, if you're looking at this and how it breaks down, the city of of Toronto had 411 detached sales in February, and the 905 region of GTA, which is anything outside that Toronto West, Central, or East, had almost 1,200 sales. If you look at semi, rows, and towns, 288 sales for City of Toronto, 738 sales for the rest of GTA. And then as we get into condos, 830 sales for the City of Toronto. For the rest of the GTA, 389, which is pretty notable that outside of the city, we are seeing much slower condo sales than inside the city, which is a year-over-year average of down about 5%, whereas the City of Toronto average is actually zero. Right in line with where things were last year from a sales perspective for condos. And I think that's so notable as we move forward, is that condos have just been trekking along, albeit slower, but they're just trekking along here in the city. Buyers certainly do have choice from an inventory perspective. If you look here at City of Toronto versus the 905 region, detached months of inventory is over 4 for both Toronto and the rest of the GTA. Semi-rows and towns, 3.5 to 3.7. I'll put a big asterisk on semis here because if you're looking in the hottest pockets of the City of Toronto, as just mentioned, this months of inventory is basically at 1. So that means that every property that comes on the market is selling, and they're selling for pretty good pricing even today. If you look at condos, over 6 months of inventory for both the City of Toronto and the Greater Toronto area. So if you are a buyer, we are pretty much in a buyer's market across the board for condos in the City of Toronto. That being said, I'm still noticing that the best condos in the best areas that are priced the best are moving and are moving very quickly. So if you do see a property that maybe the price seems too good to be true, or it's a standout from a layout perspective and you have a certain budget and that fits in that budget, typically those condos are moving even in today's market. And if they're priced a little bit too high, they may be sitting a little bit longer. Where I've been having success with my buyers is basically when we sit down and do a buyer strategy session, we discuss a lot of what their must-haves are or what their wants are. And if you are looking for a condo right now, we put down an entire list and basically narrow down from there. So if there are maybe 5 to 10 condos that check all the boxes within a certain budget, those are the 5 to 10 condos that we're going to focus on and try to get the best price we possibly can on one of those 5 to 10 condos. And that really is the only way to narrow down the search, because otherwise there are so many options out there that if you are a buyer, it may be a little bit overwhelming. So let's start with that checklist, get it as big as possible, and then narrow down from there. If you're a seller looking to sell a condo in today's market, the 3 keys that we always talk about is presentation. How does it show in person when someone's walking through? Does it give that great feeling inside? Marketing, time to quadruple down on marketing. And if you do have discussions with agents and you are searching for an agent to market your property, make sure you ask what kind of marketing they're doing in today's market and what exactly they're going to do to make your property stand out amongst the others. And the third factor, of course, is price, and it always is price. So if you are considering going to market and you look at some of what these prices are on average, knowing what exactly is going on in a micro market, in a building, in a specific pocket in the City of Toronto, super, super important. So those are some of the keys from the Urbanation report that just came out last week, and I'm sure you'll start seeing some of these details in the articles coming up. If you have any questions on these, send me a message or click that first link or QR code. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.